Hey, it's Julio with Rental Ranger Properties. We're here back at a house that I acquired like a month ago. Just kind of going to go through some of the decisions that I made and why I made them as a real estate investor. So, uh, at least on the front facade, what we decided to do is get rid of all the metal railing, except this door right here. We have some metal railing. I think it looks nice. It's decorative. It does add a bit more security. But all of the metal bars, the iron bars on the windows, kind of gives it a, lower value look or gives the perception that this neighborhood isn't safe. If you look around, there's at least within just this field of view, there's no houses with metal iron bars. So it just doesn't really make sense. We've been leaving it open for about 4 weeks now. We haven't had anyone break in or steal tools or damage the property. So it's really not that bad of an area. It's just not necessary. It also adds a bit of risk to any tenant who's looking to rent it. It can be considered, if the iron isn't easy to remove from the inside, it can be considered a fire hazard. So, just decided to get rid of them. I'm sure they cost a lot of money to install at one point, but they just don't look good and they create additional risk. On the inside, we did quite a bit of change. So everything over here, these two guest bedrooms are original, that bathroom's original. But as we move this direction, we have a massive open space. And so I was thinking, why not add another bedroom? So we added a bedroom here. And yes, this was originally the formal dining, but I still think with the amount of space that we have here, this being the living room, you can have a dining room here. Again, this is a rental property. If this is a flip, I'd probably decide differently, but I definitely would decide differently. But we're looking to rent it. We're looking to maximize our rent, our rents per month. So, there's what we did was we did a little bit of market research. We saw that there's hardly any 5-bedroom homes online. So we decided, you know what, let's turn this into a 5-bedroom property. And it already had the garage conversion. Normally, I like to have a 2-car garage on a single family home. It's valuable. However, the conversion was done very well. It already had ducting run to it. The exterior cladding or the exterior siding was done with masonry. So I was like, to undo it would cost quite a bit of money, and it's already done well. The only thing that wasn't done super well was the leveling. So they left the original slope, and what we did was we built a floor system similar to what you'd see in a pier and beam home, a floor system to create a level flooring throughout and make it seem more functional, more original to the house, even though it's not. That this is quite a big bedroom. You're still going to have fan. You're going to have obviously lighting, additional lighting. There's ducting run here, so it's going to be climatized. I was a little bit disappointed with how this closet turned out. If this was a flip, this would definitely be unacceptable. We could have taken some space out of this area here and created a bigger closet, something we still can do because we're not too far along. But I might bring that up to the general contractor and see. We took a window that was basically not. We were going to throw it away from the back side of the house and added it here. If this was a flip, I would strongly consider taking all the windows out and replacing them for new windows. But because this is going to be a rental property, we're going to save them. At a minimum, we're going to make sure none of them are cracked or inoperable, meaning they can't close and shut. We'll put new screens. We'll put new blinds. Yes, some of them have busted seals, but for this area and for the amount of rent we're going to get, it just doesn't make sense to change all the windows. We had this discussion over some LVT flooring at another house, whether or not we should keep it. It had some scratching. It had some dings. my contractor was like, oh, you know, if we want to achieve a super high or a higher ARV, we should go ahead and change them all. But I'm not too convinced that you're going to get that much out of the ARV. Like what's going to drive your ARV more than anything is what's on the MLS, is comps. And so my idea was, let's preserve the flooring there. We still had some extra pieces that we could pop out any of the bad planks that were actually deeply marred, deep clean it, and it would look good again. Perfect for a rental. You know, it's like our renter's going to use it for another 5 to 10 years. By that point, if you're holding on to it for more than 10 years, which we are, tastes could have changed, and that LVP would be out of style. Additionally, it would depreciate because the renters are damaging them as they use the house as they should. But it's like some decisions aren't necessarily, I'd say most of them, especially when it comes down to deciding what you want to do to a house, isn't black and white. Anyways, continuing on, this was already here. So I probably wouldn't have added all of this if there wasn't already an addition built. And you can go back and see what was there from the previous video. We've framed it a bit differently to add a bathroom. And this whole area here is a bathroom. And what we call a mother-in-law suite. It is smaller, but it's still pretty fun. It's very functional, and it's kind of separate from the house. It's like a mother-in-law suite, or you could consider this an office. But it does have a closet, and it does have 2 windows for egress. So it meets the dimensions for a standard bedroom. Right here, we're going to put obviously your exterior door, and then out here, you know, I thought it'd be nice to have an open kind of nook that was open to the outside. Put a nice fan here, and this is going to be storage, so this will just be left for storage, exterior storage. And the backyard's pretty big. You still got a massive porch. This was one thing that's actually funny, and this comes down to like proper management. We did not need to do all the siding here. Actually, most of the siding was in great shape, especially since it was covered by this roof. But somehow or another, wasn't communicated properly, and the subcontractors thought that what was wanted was to put all new siding. So all of this siding was added. I mean, definitely spent a decent amount of money. I think we probably, I'll say wasted, because it's not truly wasted, but it wasn't necessary, somewhere around $1,500 to $2,000 in labor and material. So again, this comes down to good communication, good management. You can lose a lot of money, especially in holding costs, but as well as in hard costs if you're not managing your renovations properly. But anyway, so back to the original theme of maximizing rent. Obviously, you're going to reach a point of diminishing returns. I would say 5 is the maximum amount of rooms. I can't imagine needing a 6-bedroom house. Of course, there's probably times when something like that, a 6+ bedroom home, there's circumstances where that might be necessary, but 5-bedroom would be what I would consider the max. And since we had 5 bedrooms, I was like, well, you might as well have an extra. If the family is that large, it makes sense to have a 3rd bathroom. So we added a 3rd bathroom, and we restructured this is the master bedroom. We restructured it a little bit, not the bedroom itself, but the bathroom. So we cut out a closet here. We carved this closet out for the bathroom for the guest. And this bathroom, it's still, aside from taking out the closet, still original. Your toilet's still here. Your shower's still there, or your tub, and your vanity. And then because we took out that closet, we decided to add and this was actually, again, this was already enclosed. So we just reframed it and added all of this as a closet for the master, which is huge. And, even a rental property, who's going to be the one deciding on whether or not they're going to sign the contract is the adult, the one that's going to occupy the master bedroom. So you still want to put a strong focus on, okay, what's functional. You don't want them to have just a tiny closet or a bathroom that's not suitable. So you still, even though this isn't a flip, regardless, it still needs to be functional and appealing. You know, once all the new sheetrock is up, all the texture is up, all the painting is done, new blinds. We actually did decide, so we could just get it done so cheap, and it just didn't make sense not to. We have a sheetrocker out here already doing repairs. We did decide to take off all the popcorn ceiling, and retexture and paint. It just didn't, it didn't make sense not to, based on the pricing that they were providing for us, to go ahead and knock that out and make the house a little bit more modern. I do like the high ceilings, and I thought, you know what, let's just get all the drywall in good shape. Again, another investor could come in and be like, oh, that's kind of a waste of money. I wouldn't have done that. I would have just painted it and focused on just patching up the walls. And, again, like I said, not everything's black and white. Comes down to, again, labor markets are different. So here in Texas, you're going to have a different cost for sheetrock work versus maybe somewhere up north. Cost of material generally is the same anywhere in the U.S., but these things are going to drive your decision process. But that's kind of what I've decided for this home. A thing that was a bit difficult for me to, I went back and forth on, was whether or not we were going to preserve the tile floors. I really don't like how they look. I wish they were either, 12 by 24 style, something a bit more modern, maybe something with a bit more design to them. But it's at some point, it's, this home can only achieve X amount of ARV because of the comps. And we've already really maximized its square footage. It's got a lot of bedrooms, five bedrooms, 3 bathrooms for the area. Most of these homes are 3-2s or 3-1s. And, at some point it's like regardless, it's like the analogy would be building a McMansion in the middle of the ghetto. You're not, regardless of how much you've invested in that property, can only achieve a certain amount of ARV, a certain amount of value upon completion. So that's pretty much it. That wraps up this video. Go ahead and like and subscribe. Brought my partner here. He's getting a bit hot, so I'm gonna take him out. But continue to follow, and I'm sure that once we get this project done, when it's in this phase, it's kind of unimpressive, but once all the trim's in, all the painting's done, all the lighting's done, it'll really come to life and look a lot better than what it does right now.